Hey everyone, and welcome back. It's time for another deep dive. You ready?
Always ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so today we're tackling a really big one. The whole saga of TikTok
Yeah.
and the will it, won't it ban here in the U.S.
Right.
We've got a ton of sources to dig into.
Yeah.
News articles, legal analyses, even some opinion pieces all about this.
Yeah.
So think of this as your one-stop shop to get totally up to speed
Absolutely.
on all the twists and turns of this story.
For sure.
And the big question, of course, is TikTok actually going to vanish from American phone?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that's really striking is that, this isn't some sudden plot twist.
Right.
This has been, brewing for a while. I mean, back in April of 2024, President Biden actually signed a bill that essentially gives TikTok 1 year to either sell its U.S. operations or face a nationwide ban.
So there's a deadline.
There's a deadline looming. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this deadline looming.
Yeah.
But why the sudden urgency? What is driving this whole concern over TikTok?
Well, it really comes down to national security.
Okay.
This bill actually had bipartisan support. It wasn't just one side or the other.
Right.
And a lot of that support is fueled by anxieties around TikTok's parent company, which is ByteDance, a Chinese company.
Right.
And the worries basically revolve around data collection and not just any data. This is data from Americans.
Right.
And there are concerns about potential for manipulation of, what you see on your feed and even the possibility of using that information to undermine U.S. interests.
So it's gone way beyond just, catchy dances and funny videos.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's gotten really serious.
Yeah. This is, high stakes stuff.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about, what kind of data TikTok might be gathering on you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's kind of unnerving when you think about it.
It really is.
Every scroll, every comment could be building a profile that, could potentially be accessed.
Yeah, that is a little creepy.
It is a bit, yeah.
So this isn't the first time, though, that the U.S. government has kind of taken aim at TikTok, right?
Right.
Back in 2020, the Trump administration also tried to ban it.
Yeah, they did.
But they ran into some legal challenges.
Yeah, they faced a lot of pushback.
That was a wild time.
It was.
Is this bill different, though?
Well, this bill is structured differently.
Oh.
And so far it has, weathered the legal storms a bit better.
Okay.
So TikTok actually tried arguing that the ban infringed on their First Amendment rights.
Oh, interesting.
But an appeals court very firmly rejected that.
Wow. So that sounds pretty decisive.
It was a pretty strong statement from the court.
So what was TikTok's next move?
Well, they didn't give up. They filed a lawsuit against the government, insisting that the law is unconstitutional. And they're really hoping that the Supreme Court will take up the case.
Okay.
They've even requested an emergency injunction to delay the ban while they wait.
So they're pulling out all the stops.
They're fighting hard, yeah.
And speaking of unpredictable players, we've got to talk about Donald Trump.
Right.
He is back in the White House.
He is.
And he'll be taking office right as this ban is supposed to go into effect.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
So given his history with TikTok, this throws a whole other wrench into the situation.
It really does. It adds a whole new layer of complexity.
Yeah, because, his statements about the ban have been all over the place.
They have had that.
1 minute he's against it.
Right.
The next he seems to be in favor of it.
Yeah, he's gone back and forth quite a bit.
Do you think he's even made up his mind yet about what he wants to do?
It's tough to say. His past actions are definitely a factor, but we also have to consider the potential influence of his donors.
Oh, that's right.
There are reports that some of his major donors have actually invested pretty heavily in TikTok, so that could have a big influence on his final decision.
So it's not just about, politics and national security. It's about money and influence, too.
It's all intertwined.
Yeah. This is shaping up to be a pretty high-stakes chess match.
It really is.
With millions of American TikTok users kind of stuck in the middle.
Right, and their fate hangs in the balance.
What does this all mean for them, though?
Yeah.
Are they just going to wake up one day and their favorite app is gone?
Well, the potential impact of this ban on TikTok's huge user base is enormous.
Yeah.
We're talking about over 170 million Americans.
That's a lot of people.
It is. And then there's the economic fallout for creators who rely on the platform for their income.
Right.
Even a temporary ban could be really devastating for a lot of people.
So TikTok is making this argument that the ban is a bill of attainder.
They are, yeah.
Which I find really interesting.
It is interesting.
Can you break that down for us a little bit?
Sure. So a bill of attainder is basically a law that declares a person or a group guilty of a crime and punishes them without a trial.
Okay.
And TikTok is arguing that this law is doing exactly that. It's singling them out for punishment based on their connection to China without giving them a fair chance to defend themselves in court.
So they're basically saying that the government's trying to bypass the whole judicial process.
Exactly. They're saying they're being denied due process.
That's a pretty bold legal argument.
It is. It's a long shot, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility.
Do you think they have a chance of winning?
It's hard to say. The Supreme Court could decide that the law does violate TikTok's constitutional rights and strike it down.
Okay.
Or they could uphold the lower court's decisions and let the ban go forward.
So either way, it's a pretty pivotal moment.
It is.
For both TikTok and for the future of social media regulation in the U.S.
Yeah, this case could set precedents that impact how the government handles other foreign-owned apps and online platforms in the years to come.
It's a really complicated issue with no easy answers.
Absolutely. We're seeing this collision of free speech, national security, the increasing influence of technology in our lives.
Yeah.
It's a lot to unpack.
So let's say the legal challenges fail.
Okay.
What's next for TikTok? Is selling off their U.S. operations a realistic option at that point?
It's definitely a possibility, and maybe even the most likely scenario if the legal challenges don't go their way.
Okay.
The law does give ByteDance that option to divest from TikTok's U.S. operations. And, we've even heard whispers of potential buyers out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some big names in tech even.
So there are people who are interested in buying TikTok.
It seems so, yeah. It seems like they might have a lifeline there if they're willing to make a deal.
But wouldn't selling off, such a huge part of their business be a major setback for them?
Oh, undoubtedly. It would be a financial hit for sure and a strategic loss.
Right.
But it might be the less painful route compared to a complete ban.
Right.
They'd have to weigh those costs carefully.
Yeah.
What they stand to lose versus what they could salvage.
It's a high-stakes gamble either way.
It is.
So let's say neither the courts nor a divestiture deal come through.
Okay.
What happens when that January 19th deadline arrives?
Well, that's when things could get really interesting.
Okay.
If the other options fall flat, the ban would at least in theory kick in.
Yeah.
And U.S. app stores like Apple and Google would be barred from offering TikTok for download.
Wow.
It's even possible that existing users would lose access.
So it could be game over for TikTok in America.
Potentially.
Yeah.
It's a very real possibility.
And that's going to cause a huge reaction.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially among those millions of users and creators who rely on the platform.
Right. I mean, the potential fallout from a ban is massive.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about, losing access to funny videos and trends.
Right.
This has implications for free speech,
Yeah.
the livelihoods of creators, even the potential to fragment the internet as we know it.
Yeah. And the political ramifications are huge, too.
They are.
This could really escalate tensions between the U.S. and China.
It could.
It could have, ripple effects across trade and diplomacy.
Yeah, this goes way beyond a single social media app.
It really does.
Yeah.
This whole situation really highlights, I think, a lot of the really just knotty issues of the digital age.
It does.
Where you have technology, politics, national security all tangled up together.
Yeah, it's a messy knot.
It's a real mess.
Hey.
It raises these fundamental questions, too, about,
Yeah.
The power these tech giants wield.
You're right.
The role of government in online spaces,
Mm-hmm.
and the very future of free expression in our world.
Big questions. Yeah.
So let's try to break it down a bit further.
Okay.
We've talked about the legal battle,
Yeah.
the divestiture possibility.
Right.
Now let's zero in on the ban's potential impact.
Okay.
We know it would be huge for TikTok, the company.
Yeah.
But what about the individual users and creators?
Right.
How would their lives actually be affected?
Well, for starters, over 170 million Americans would suddenly lose access to a platform that's become really central to their lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it's where they connect with friends, express themselves creatively, get their news.
Right.
Some even build their entire careers.
You're right. For a lot of people, especially, I think, younger generations,
Yeah.
TikTok isn't just an app. It's like a community.
Yeah.
It's a source of income, a way of life.
Yeah, it's a whole ecosystem.
Losing that would be a major disruption.
Absolutely.
What about the creators specifically?
Yeah.
How would the ban hit them?
Well, the economic consequences could be devastating for a lot of creators. Many of them depend on TikTok for their livelihoods.
Right.
They earn through brand deals, sponsorships, even direct monetization features on the platform. A ban would essentially cut off their income overnight.
And we already know that even a temporary ban could cost TikTok a huge chunk of its ad revenue.
Right?
So creators would definitely feel the pain of that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any estimates on how much money they stand to lose?
It's hard to put an exact figure on it.
Yeah.
It would vary depending on, how long the ban lasts.
Right.
And each creator's individual earnings.
Right.
But considering that some top TikTokers make millions annually,
Yeah.
the potential losses are substantial.
It's tough to think about all the hard work and the passion these creators have poured into
Right.
building their audiences and their careers on this platform,
Yeah.
only to potentially have it all ripped away.
It's a very real threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not just about individual creators, though.
Right.
What about the broader impact on the creative economy
Yeah.
and the future of content creation as a whole?
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
TikTok hasn't just empowered individuals.
Right.
It's really reshaped the entire landscape of content creation.
Yeah.
It's democratized the process, allowing anyone with a smartphone and internet access
Right.
to potentially reach a global audience.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is. It's been a game changer.
TikTok has really challenged the old models of media
It has.
and opened up opportunities for artists, musicians, comedians, educators,
Yeah, all sorts of people.
countless others.
Countless others, yeah.
What would a ban mean for this, this evolving creator economy?
Right.
Could it stifle innovation and creativity, do you think?
It's a real concern. A ban on TikTok could definitely hinder innovation. By removing a platform that's encouraged experimentation and pushed the boundaries of content.
Okay.
It could also scare off future investment in the creator economy,
Right.
making it harder for new platforms and creators to gain a foothold.
So it's not just about losing TikTok as it exists today.
Right.
It's about that potential ripple effect across this entire ecosystem
Exactly.
of online creativity.
Yeah, the whole landscape could shift.
And that's a pretty sobering thought.
It is.
What about users who aren't necessarily creating content?
Okay.
What would they be missing if TikTok vanishes?
Well, beyond the entertainment and the community aspect, TikTok has become a significant source of information and news,
Really?
particularly for younger generations.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it's become a news source for a lot of people.
A lot of people, especially those who are skeptical of traditional media,
Right.
rely on TikTok to stay informed about current events.
Yeah, to get their news.
Social issues,
Yep.
even political campaigns.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't a ban then create an information vacuum,
It could.
potentially leaving millions of Americans less informed?
It's a very real possibility.
Yeah.
A ban could worsen the problem of information silos and echo chambers.
Right.
Users would be limited to the perspectives and information shared on whatever platforms are left.
And it could also make it harder for social movements and grassroots campaigns
Yeah,
to gain traction.
absolutely.
Because TikTok has been such an effective tool
It has been.
for raising awareness
Yeah.
and mobilizing people.
Yeah, it's been a powerful tool for activism.
It's a reminder that TikTok, for all its flaws and controversies,
Right.
has really become woven into the fabric of American society
It has.
and culture.
Yeah, it's become a part of our lives.
Its absence would leave a gap
It would.
that extends far beyond, silly dances and viral trends.
Absolutely.
And we haven't even touched on, I think, the wider implications for
Right.
internet freedom and the future of social media regulation.
Yeah, this case could establish precedents that reach far beyond TikTok.
Right.
It could impact how the U.S. government approaches other foreign-owned apps and online platforms for years to come.
This is a lot to consider.
It is.
The stakes are clearly very high.
Yeah.
But before we kind of delve into those broader implications,
Yes.
let's bring our focus back to Donald Trump.
All right.
He's back in the White House. He's got a big decision to make about TikTok's fate.
Yeah, big decision.
Will he be its savior,
Right.
or will he deliver the final blow?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
It's a tough one.
Trump's relationship with TikTok is complex and contradictory,
Yeah.
making it nearly impossible to predict what he'll do.
Well, let's try to explore the Trump factor a little bit here
Oh.
and see if we can decipher what his stance on TikTok actually is.
Right.
So remember back in 2020,
Yeah.
he was ready to ban the app?
He was?
It seemed like a done deal
It did.
until those legal challenges emerged. Right, and those legal challenges threw a wrench in the works.
Yeah, he seemed determined to shut it down.
He did.
And then during his recent campaign, he kind of shifted gears,
Yes, he did.
talking about, saving TikTok.
Yeah, saving TikTok.
It seemed to contradict everything he said before.
It did. It was a pretty surprising shift.
It was a real head-scratcher. It's fascinating how his stance evolved.
It is.
At times he called it a national security threat,
Right.
and other times it was just another business deal.
Yeah, he framed it in different ways.
What do you think was driving those shifts in his rhetoric?
Well, it's hard to know for sure what's going on in anyone's mind.
Yeah.
Especially someone like Donald Trump.
Right.
But it does make you wonder if his concerns were truly about national security or if there were other factors at play.
Like what?
Like political calculations or even potential financial interests.
Right.
We already know that some of his key donors have invested heavily in TikTok. That kind of connection could certainly influence his decision-making.
It's a very complicated web
It is.
of politics and business and national security.
All tangled together, yeah.
So, with Trump back in the Oval Office, what are the possible scenarios that we could see play out regarding TikTok?
Well, one possibility is that he sticks to his campaign promises and attempts to save TikTok.
Okay.
That might involve, negotiating a deal with ByteDance, perhaps with a U.S.-based company taking over TikTok's operations.
So he could use his presidential power to orchestrate a deal that benefits his allies.
Potentially.
And positions him as the hero who saved TikTok for American users.
Exactly. He could frame it as a win-win, addressing the national security concerns while also keeping TikTok alive.
It would be a pretty savvy political move.
It would be.
Especially with the younger generation.
Yeah.
Who are such avid users of the app.
Right, they're a huge voting bloc.
But couldn't he just as easily revert to his earlier position?
He could.
And just allow the ban to go through?
That's definitely a possibility, too. He's shown a tendency to act decisively.
Right.
Even if it sparks controversy.
He's not afraid of controversy.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to issues of national security.
Okay.
If he's truly convinced that TikTok poses a threat, he might be willing to let the ban happen regardless of the potential political or economic consequences.
So it's a tough position for him.
It is.
Ignoring the ban risks alienating some of his base
Right.
and facing backlash from TikTok's huge user base.
Yeah, he could anger a lot of people.
But allowing it to proceed could be seen as, putting America's security first.
Right, framing it as a strong leadership move.
Yeah, it's a classic Trumpian dilemma.
It is.
Balancing his own interests against political calculations.
Yeah.
And you know what? Some might consider the national interest.
It's a tough call.
It's hard to predict which way he'll go.
It is. He's full of surprises.
We've explored a lot of different facets of this story today.
We have.
The legal battles, the political maneuvering,
the
potential impact on millions of Americans.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
If we were to boil it all down,
Okay.
what would you say is the biggest takeaway for our listeners?
I think the key takeaway here is that the TikTok saga is far from over. It's a complex situation. It's constantly evolving with high stakes for everyone involved.
Yeah.
And it's not just about one social media app.
Right.
This situation really encapsulates, I think, the challenges that we're grappling with in this digital age.
We're talking about the balance of free speech and national security.
Yeah.
The power of these massive tech companies.
Yeah.
The role of government in regulating online spaces.
Big question.
These are really fundamental questions that are going to shape our world in the years ahead.
Absolutely.
So as we navigate this new territory,
Yeah.
it's vital that we stay informed,
Yes.
engage in these conversations,
Right.
and consider the many different viewpoints at play.
It's crucial to have these discussions.
Well said. So we've given you the information and the context to understand this issue.
Hopefully.
Now it's up to you to form your own opinion.
Yeah.
Do you think TikTok poses a real threat to national security?
Right.
Should the government have the authority to ban foreign-owned apps?
Big questions to ponder.
These are questions worth thinking about.
Absolutely.
And as you consider those questions,
Okay.
here's one final thought.
Right.
If TikTok does disappear from the American landscape,
Okay.
what will fill the void?
That's a great question.
Will new platforms emerge? Or will existing ones adapt and try to capture that lost audience?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the landscape shifts.
It's a question that goes beyond TikTok itself.
It does.
It's about the future of social media, the evolution of online communities, and that fundamental human need to connect with each other.
Yeah, that need to connect.
Especially in this increasingly digital world.
For sure.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Keep those conversations going.
Absolutely.
Stay curious and keep exploring.
Always be exploring. It's a lot to take in, for sure.